Alright, well, it's about time that I make another Tomodachi Life video, and I thought today it would be more fun to create my own interiors rather than just food. So I've decided to select 3 niche indie game titles, those being Mori, Baldis Basics, and Milk Inside a Bag of Milk, and making rooms based off of them. So yeah, let's just get started. So first up, we have Mori, and I knew I just had to make a room for this game because I've been obsessed with it recently. It's literally one of my favorite games of all time. Never played it, by the way. Luckily for me, this one was actually incredibly easy because all I had to do was just go on Sketchfab and then download a model that somebody else already made. So thanks, buddy. I adapted it to fit a room for Tomodachi Life in Blender, and then it was just onto CTR Studio, onto getting the materials right, which were also pretty simple as the textures were done for me. I'm not gonna lie, the process after creating the original model was very straightforward. Most of the materials were either set to a flat black or a flat white, and any of the textured ones simply needed to have their texture applied to their mesh. That being said, a very cool trick this model employed was the use of flipped UVs to create an outline effect, which I think is pretty cool. After I finished this model, I moved on to Baldis Basics, and because that game doesn't have a very good soundtrack, you'll be listening to some sick beats by DJ Mishima himself. So for Baldis Basics, I had a bit of a different strategy than just going on Sketchfab. Instead, I was going to just rip the model straight from the game and then just kind of adapt one of the rooms straight from it. Unfortunately, I didn't realize that somehow this model is nearly 500,000 triangles. Like, what? Why? Due to this realization, I decided to change my plan to just ripping a couple things here and there, and then just starting from the ground up. Luckily, this was Baldis Basics, so it wasn't very complicated to figure out on my own. It was just kind of ripping its textures and then applying them to the walls correctly. After I got the foundation of the model done, I just imported it into CTR Studio and then got started working on the finished room that would go in the game. One major thing I realized was to not use any sort of shading because Baldis Basics I don't think uses any sort of shading except for on the chairs, which I had to set to a material constant instead of an actual texture and then apply just pixel shading, and that's it. For one of the walls, it was actually quite a challenge to get it to work correctly because I wanted the chalkboard to appear on the wall. So what I decided to do was to create a mask using the chalkboard's alpha channel by multiplying the brick texture wherever the alpha was 1. And then after I did that, I added the chalkboard back in, and that seemed to get it to work. And after I did that, it was pretty much done. I just had to compress the model and throw it in the game and give it some description. For the final room, I decided to channel my inner silly girl by creating a room inspired by Milk Inside of a Bag of Milk and its sequel, Milk Outside of a Bag of Milk. This one was quite a challenge because I had to build everything from the ground up. I had to build both the model by myself and make the textures that were obviously adapted from the game itself. It was quite an interesting challenge because I'm not a very good artist, so I kind of tried my best. One thing that I made sure to keep in mind was to, again, not use any pixel shading because I wanted the lighting to be pretty flat. Luckily, the model wasn't too tricky to make because it wasn't anything super duper extravagant. It was a lot of kind of basic shapes subtracted from each other. I decided to kind of fill up the space in the room by making the pile of milk cartons you see below the sink, then of course the sink and the mirror itself, adding the laptop, adding the desk, the radio, and then adding a fan that I totally did not steal from Tomodachi Life itself. For a room that I thought was going to be pretty daunting, I'm pretty happy with how it turned out, and I'm pretty excited to show you guys what it's going to look like in-game. Well, let's hope all these rooms turned out well.
I'd like some new clothes.
You know what? Whatever. Have the dysphoria hoodie. Of course he doesn't like it. Alright, first up, we're going to be testing white space, of course, because this is the one that I think looks the coolest. And look at that, not too shabby if I do say so myself. Alright, let's test out Baldis. Looking pretty good, looking pretty good. Let me just change into some more appropriate attire. And there we have it. All the rooms are looking pretty nice. I'm pretty happy with how this one turned out, given the fact that I made it from the ground up. But yeah, I think that's good. This video took a lot longer than I thought it was going to take. So hopefully the next video won't be just another month. But until then, I guess I'll see you all next time.